Hello, everyone. This is the Insert Title Show, and I am your host, Wolf Strife. On this episode, I am going to be talking about my Cubic Fun 3D model of Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia is one of the most magnificent buildings in the world. I've always been fascinated by it just because it's so beautiful, so unique, and it's just really cool to look at. And I've also always been fascinated by the Byzantines, their culture, their history, their art. It's just such a fascinating group of people. And Hagia Sophia is the epitome of Byzantine architecture. It is uniquely Byzantine. A lot of the other famous buildings in Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, are really kind of derived from a lot of their Western Roman counterparts. Like the Hippodrome is obviously a copy of the Circus Maximus, and so on and so forth. But the Hagia Sophia is really just a piece of unique culture, a unique time period. Just everything about it is special. And so when I saw that Cubic Fun had a Hagia Sophia 3D model, I was like, yoink. Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy that and put that together. But I have to admit, when I looked at the model on the box, the picture of the model, I was like, oh my God, that is going to suck putting together. It just looked so complicated. I was just like, oh my God. But I eventually got around to doing it, and it actually wasn't too tough. It was surprisingly pretty fun to put together, actually. When you look at it, the foundation, like the main part of the building, is actually just a square. So once you have the foundation put together, then all you're doing is just adding things onto it, like the domes, the half domes, the minarets, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it actually wasn't too hard to put together. And the main dome actually wasn't even that hard to put on, especially compared to the St. Peter's Basilica dome. Oh my God. That thing was pretty tricky. But yeah, the domes on Hagia Sophia weren't tricky at all, even the main one. So this model was a real joy and pleasure to put together. And, because I'm really into the Byzantines, I've really had a good time just, checking it out and really enjoying putting it together. The only part I had kind of trouble with were the minarets, just trying to get them to stay in their sockets and stuff was kind of a pain, but the rest of the model was just fine, which is kind of surprising for a model this large. When it's done, it's pretty big, pretty big. A whole lot going on with this building. So yeah, as far as the model goes, it was a lot of fun and very interesting, very interesting. And it looks great once you get it done. So yeah, that was a good time. I really enjoyed putting it together. It only took me about 8 or 9 hours to do, so yeah, not too bad at all. It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, and I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I don't know why, but I've just always been kind of drawn to the Byzantine Empire or the Eastern Roman Empire, whatever you want to call it. There was that line in Age of Empires 2 that I always remembered because I liked it so much. It was the Roman Empire never truly fell, it just changed continents. Basically meaning that Roman Empire never fell, it just, became part of Asia, more or less. At least until 1453 when the Ottomans finally conquered Constantinople, and that was basically the end of the Eastern Roman Empire / Byzantine Empire. And the interesting thing about that is if you want to consider that part of the Roman Empire, then, well, it lasted 1,000 years longer than the Western Roman Empire. So that's pretty damn crazy if you think about it. The United States of America is what, 240 years old, give or take? That's nothing compared to the Byzantine Empire. Yeah, nothing. Hell, Hagia Sophia was built in 537 AD, so this building's about to turn 1,500 years old. Wow. Yeah, I definitely need to make arrangements to be in Istanbul for the 1500th anniversary of the building. That would be a pretty cool place and time to be in about, 19 years, I guess? Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to be there for that. But, yeah, man, the Byzantines are freaking cool. I'm not exactly an expert on them, but one day I would like to be, since I haven't really delved too deeply into Byzantine history and culture and everything. But I would like to one day. But that's another thing about doing this model. It got me to learn about Hagia Sophia and Constantinople and basically the early part of the Byzantine Empire. I mean, it's just such a rich subject matter. I mean, there's just so much going on here. You have the city Constantinople being named after the Emperor Constantine, who basically is the reason why there are so many Christians nowadays because he made Christianity the religion of the Roman Empire. So, I mean, just all that going on. Plus, Constantine moved the capital of the Roman Empire from Rome to Constantinople. Constantinople is just an amazing city. It's definitely, I would say, in the top three of the greatest cities of the ancient world. You got Rome, you got Alexandria, and then you got Constantinople. Just all the art, the culture. I mean, all these different groups of people who were coming to live there. You had people from the Middle East, you had Greeks, you had Romans, you had Slavs. I mean, you just had all these people coming from around the world to come to this magnificent city. And the culture was just so unique there. I mean, it really is interesting. Basically, classical Greek was the language that was spoken there, but everybody else would be speaking their own languages. But yeah, seeing how it was a Greek-speaking empire, that's pretty interesting to me. I don't know why. It's just well, I mean, Greek is just such an important language to the history of mankind. I mean, that's what the Iliad, the Odyssey, all the Greek tragedies and comedies and all that stuff are written in. And it's also pretty much the first language the Bible was written in. So, yeah, I actually know a couple of people who read the original Bible, and so they actually learned classical Greek. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, Constantinople is just freaking cool, man. You've got the Hippodrome, you've got all these buildings and churches and the ports and just everything, and you got the Theodosian walls, possibly the greatest defensive works of the ancient world and the medieval world. You've got the geography of Constantinople is freaking cool. You got the Sea of Marmara, you got the Golden Horn. I mean, it's just a magnificent city. I can't wait to go to Istanbul and really take it all in. Just the art, the architecture, the style, the smells, the food. I want to climb the ruins of the Theodosian walls. I want to check out the museums. I want to see the sunrise on the Golden Horn. I mean, I just want to see all this stuff and experience it. So, yeah, Constantinople I'm just completely fascinated by, but naturally this episode's about Hagia Sophia, so maybe I should get back on subject. But there were actually two churches on the spot where Hagia Sophia currently is. The first one was built in like 360 AD by Emperor Constantinos II, but the problem was most of it was built out of wood. So naturally there were some riots and they got a little rambunctious and actually burned the church down. Yeah. And then the second church was built by Theodosius II. He's the guy that built the Theodosian walls, so kind of cool. He built that one in 415 AD. The only problem, of course, was that, again, they built it mostly out of wood. So when the Nika revolt happened, things got kind of crazy again, and the rioters burned the second church down. So, yeah. The Nika revolt was kind of freaking crazy. Basically, in Constantinople, they have their, I guess you could call them sports teams, who were simply identified by their color. You had the blues, you had the greens, you had the reds, and you had the whites. I guess the Byzantines weren't really into giving their teams interesting names like the Wolverines and the Bobcats and the Wildcats and let's just throw in a weird one, the Raptors. Yeah, let's put that one in there. So they weren't too into that, so they were just simple colors. And but basically, these sports teams were crazy, man. Basically, think the Yankees, Red Sox times 100. with the fanaticism and everything. I mean, it wasn't just like a team that you were rooting for, it was like your entire life is actually part of this group. It's almost like a union, almost like you're a Teamster slash a Chicago Bulls fan. It's kind of weird, but yeah, basically a revolt slash riot got going, and the Emperor Justinian, who was probably the greatest emperor the Byzantines ever had, I believe he was a fan of the blues, and basically a couple of the major leaders of the blues and the greens got into a big kerfuffle and got arrested, and then both factions, the greens and the blues, who were the most powerful teams in Constantinople, they actually started a revolt against Justinian. And this was horrible. I mean, they actually burnt half of Constantinople down. They killed thousands, and I mean, it was really, really crazy. Especially if you try and like picture something like that happening today. I mean, it's unimaginable. Things got so bad that Justinian was actually going to hop on a boat to get the hell out of Constantinople. But when he was walking on the dock to get on his ship, his wife, the Empress Theodora, actually stopped and said, "Hey, I'm not leaving. This is my kingdom." And Justinian was like, "Yes, dear." So he actually decided to stay and came up with a plan with his best general, Belisarius, on how to deal with the revolt. So basically, they lured the blues and the greens into the hippodrome. And while the teams were going to coronate a new king, Apicius, it was pointed out by one of Justinian's men, I think he was a eunuch or whatever, that the guy basically said, "Oh, you guys want Hippolytus to be your new king, huh? You do know that he's a green, right?" And so the blues started talking to themselves, and they were like, "You know what? Fuck this, man. I'm out of here." So the blues actually left the hippodrome, and the greens were like, "Wait, where are you going?" And then that's when Justinian's troops surrounded the hippodrome, and they actually cut off all the exits. And then once they had the word, they started to move in and slaughter the greens. And supposedly they killed about 30,000 of them. So yeah, this was pretty crazy. I mean, can you even imagine like a sports arena being filled with 30,000 dead bodies like that? I mean, people killed by swords, knives, and just holy shit, that had to be just imagine watching that happen. I mean, it just had to be insane. But regardless, Justinian had his city back, and I don't think the Greens would be a problem anymore. But yeah, just kind of crazy, man. And what I meant by sports team, the Greens and the Blues, basically like imagine that the Greens would always go up against the Blues in chariot racing, boxing, that kind of stuff. So it wasn't really a sports team. It was really just a side that you were on. You were either for the Greens or you were for the Blues. So yeah. But anyway, during the revolt, the rioters had burned down Theodosius's church. So Justinian had to build a new one. And pretty much half the city too. Yeah, he definitely had his work cut out for him, but at least he had learned the lessons of the past here. He was like, okay, we are not going to build this church out of wood. Okay, we're going to build it out of stone and brick. Just whatever's not flammable, because the city really likes to burn things down when it has a riot going on. So yeah, at least he learned the lesson of the past there. So yeah, pretty soon after the riot, they actually got to building Hagia Sophia. I guess that would have been 532 AD. And interestingly enough, the two guys that Justinian hired to design and oversee the building of Hagia Sophia, neither one of them were architects, oddly enough. They were both actually mathematicians. I guess you could call him the main designer, Isidore of Miletus. He was actually a physics teacher, or I guess what we would call a physics teacher. He taught at the University of Alexandria, and then he moved to the University of Constantinople. And yeah, he was a pretty cool guy. He actually was the first guy to compile all of Archimedes' work and designs and stuff, so that's pretty cool. And the other guy was Anthimus of Tralles. He was a mathematician too, so yeah, kind of interesting. Oddly enough, though, Anthemos died like I think a year after construction began, so yeah, he wasn't around too long to see the project through. But yeah, Isidore and Anthemos's original plans were pretty bold. They were definitely using geometry and, all that kind of mathematical slash engineering slash architectural stuff that I have no idea. So I'm not even going to attempt to try and describe it to you, but it's very cool and very sciencey and smart. So yeah, pretty interesting. I mean, basically how they designed the dome and how to support all the weight of that and just everything. It really is cool how sophisticated the mathematicians were of, this time period. Well, I mean, that's the cool thing about the Eastern Roman Empire. You got the best of the Western Roman Empire, basically, the Latin speaking Romans. And then you also have the best of the East, the Greek speaking Romans. I mean, in many ways, you could kind of say Constantinople was Alexander the Great's dream, just kind of mixed cultures. You have the Hellenistic culture of philosophy, mathematics, medicine, and stuff mixing with the world around it. So it really is a remarkable, remarkable city and empire. It didn't take them too long to finish Hagia Sophia. It only took them 5 years, so it was actually finished in 537 AD. When it was finished, it was by far and away the largest church in the entire world. And in fact, it would remain so until the Spanish built their cathedral in the city of Seville in the year 1520, so almost 1,000 years later. So Hagia Sophia had a good run there. And I should probably go into some detail about what the hell Hagia Sophia means. Yeah, I probably should have done that at the beginning of the video, but you know me. Basically, Hagia Sophia means holy wisdom or divine wisdom. Basically, it means, the Logos or the Holy Spirit and Holy Word of God, basically. That's another section on this I don't really understand too well. I mean, I guess if I had like Jordan Peterson on here, I guess he could explain the logos better than I could. So, yeah, mathematical engineering and architecture is not my strong suit, and neither is theological stuff. So, yeah, but anyway, that's what Hagia Sophia means, holy wisdom. So naturally, when Hagia Sophia was completed, big party, big commemoration. I mean, this was, right away, like the most important building in Constantinople. The building would do pretty well, but unfortunately, the region is very prone to heavy duty earthquakes. There was one earthquake that was so bad that it actually almost destroyed the Theodosian walls. I think it knocked down 57 towers. I mean, holy shit. Well, that whole region is pretty notorious for heavy duty earthquakes. It's kind of in the same area. The Colossus of Rhodes was actually destroyed by an earthquake. I never really understood why they never rebuilt that, but then I always remember, oh yeah, there's a reason why they never built it. Basically, I think it was a seer or somebody said that if the citizens of Rhodes ever tried to rebuild the Colossus, that, something bad would happen. So basically, there was a curse or a foretelling of bad events if they ever tried to rebuild the Colossus of Rhodes. But, it's kind of interesting. But, yeah. Hagia Sophia would be, over the centuries, just devastated by earthquakes. 20 years after it was finished, the dome actually collapsed and had to be repaired. In fact, I think it was Isidore's nephew, Isidore the Younger, who actually had to redesign the dome. And I think more or less that's the current dome design that we see to this day. So, yeah, kind of interesting keeping it in the family. But yeah, the Hagia Sophia would just be racked by earthquakes. The dome would collapse several times. The half domes would collapse. It was just terrible. But yeah, as time went on, Hagia Sophia got older, and so did the Byzantine Empire. And, nothing lasts forever. So basically, after the 1200s, the Byzantine Empire was just going downhill. Well, hell, during the Fourth Crusade, which was led mostly by the Italians, they actually surprised the Byzantines and actually conquered Constantinople and actually made Hagia Sophia a Roman Catholic cathedral instead of a Eastern Orthodox cathedral. So yeah, that was kind of crazy. But eventually, the Byzantine Emperor Michael Palaiologos VIII recaptured the city and Hagia Sophia in 1261. I think the Italians had captured the city in 1204, so then they lost it in 1261. So yeah, they actually had the city for a while there, but yep, the Byzantine Emperor took the city back and made Hagia Sophia a Greek Orthodox church again. So yeah, but the damage had been done to the empire. I mean, the Byzantines never really recovered from the Fourth Crusade, and the Ottomans kept getting more powerful, and they actually started capturing the regions around Constantinople because the Ottomans had a very powerful navy. They could actually just go anywhere they wanted to and attack anywhere they wanted to. So they actually started conquering the Balkans and everything. So once the Byzantine Empire had lost basically everything in the east, all their Turkish provinces and the Levant and all that stuff, basically they were trapped on Europe. And then the Ottomans started conquering all the provinces around them in Europe. So basically, eventually, the only thing that was left was Constantinople, or as the Ottomans called it, the Golden Apple, I believe. And so they laid siege to Constantinople several times over several centuries. I mean, this was like the dream of the Ottoman Empire, was to conquer Constantinople. And it wasn't until 1453 that they were actually able to do it. And there was a really good book called A Place Called Armageddon that details the fall of Constantinople. And it's a really good book. I mean, it's mostly fiction, but it's written with enough historical accuracy to make it a fascinating tale and also a kind of a educational tale, I guess you could say. But yeah, check that book out if you want to. It's a really good read. The fall of Constantinople was pretty devastating. I mean, the defenders definitely did their best, and they really held up against some incredible odds. I mean, I think the defenders of Constantinople numbered about 7,000, the Ottomans about 100,000 or so. And the Theodosian walls that were so powerful and formidable for 1,000 years, they didn't do too well against Ottoman cannons and bombards. So yeah, the defenders definitely were fighting a losing war against really time. I mean, the times had changed. I mean, it was time for the Ottomans to take the city. Now, during the siege and the fall of Constantinople, Hagia Sophia had naturally been a place of worship and place where scared citizens would naturally flock to. The priests were almost constantly doing their preaching and, all that stuff. And yeah, Hagia Sophia was full of wounded soldiers, women and children. It was definitely a place of refuge. And then when the city fell, it became even more packed with people trying to, just find help and mercy and everything. But the Ottomans, when they entered the church, they weren't too nice. Basically, outright, they killed all the old and the wounded. Probably right then and there, raped most of the women and young girls, and basically the boys and the men of healthy age and stuff, they were sold into slavery. So yeah, I bet you there's probably some bad vibes in Hagia Sophia after that. I mean, no telling how many people were murdered and raped and just, had their entire lives destroyed in that room in 1453. So, yeah, I'm sure there's some bad vibes. But, I mean, a building that's almost 1,500 years old, there's got to be a lot of stuff going on in there. But, so the Ottomans won, and they finally plucked the golden apple. And the Sultan of the Ottomans, Mehmed II, or as he became known after taking Constantinople, Mehmed al-Fatih, the conqueror, he immediately saw that the church, Hagia Sophia, was converted into a mosque. And right away, the Ottomans started to destroy all the icons and all the Christian art and just all that stuff. And they started to plaster over what they couldn't destroy. And yeah, went about turning it into a mosque. Now, contrary to what you might expect, the Ottomans actually were a pretty good thing for Constantinople. For centuries, the city had been kind of dying slowly. Like the population of the city was way, way below what it had been before. And so the Ottomans kind of breathed a new life into it. And I mean, their art style was pretty amazing too. I mean, they built some amazing mosques, some of them right next to Hagia Sophia, like the Blue Mosque. I mean, that building is just wow. Oddly enough, Cubic Fun has a Blue Mosque model that I want to get, but it keeps selling out on Amazon. But hopefully one day I can get my hands on it. I mean, that is just gorgeous. And, even though they were Muslim, you have to remember these guys came from Turkey. So they weren't really all that different culturally from the Byzantines. I mean, they all grew up reading the Iliad, the Odyssey, all the Greek plays and tragedies. Yeah, I mean, it really was a melding of cultures here. And the Muslims always had a very unique and beautiful artistic style. I mean, just look at their stuff in Spain. And oddly enough, a lot of their structures in Constantinople definitely were influenced by Hagia Sophia, like the Blue Mosque, and Suleiman built a mosque and stuff. They were definitely influenced by Hagia Sophia, which I think just shows the respect they had for the architecture. I mean, hell, when they took the city, the building was 900 years old, so yeah, they definitely had respect for it, I think. And so over the next couple of centuries, the Ottomans would add to Hagia Sophia, not just on the inside with art and stuff like that, but on the outside, they actually added the minarets that you see, which are pretty iconic, I think. They really add something to the building, I think. Oddly enough, though, they only built the first two minarets, and then like 50 years later, some guy came around and said, hey, let's build two more. So for like 50 years or so, there were only two minarets, but now there are four. And I have to say, just having two would have looked kind of weird, but it definitely looks better with four. So yeah. And in case you don't know, a minaret is where the basically the imam or somebody basically calls the worshippers to prayer every day. So yeah, if you go to the Middle East, you're going to hear every now and then a guy over a loudspeaker singing. And that's basically calling the Muslim faithful to prayer. So Hagia Sophia has four of those now, so yeah, that's pretty cool. And then eventually the Ottomans added a golden crescent moon on top of the building, so that was kind of interesting. And of course, there were a lot of earthquakes still, so the Ottomans had the pleasure of having to rebuild the dome a few times and stuff, so yeah, fix a lot of cracks and stuff and reinforce it with iron and just, yeah. Kind of a pain in the ass, but I mean, it's such a magnificent structure that, yeah, I mean, come on, you gotta keep this thing going. So things didn't really start to change for Hagia Sophia until the Ottoman Empire ended after World War I in 1918. But then the first president of Turkey, Ataturk, he actually was a pretty progressive guy. Yeah, he was a pretty cool guy. He actually kind of sensed the growing tension between Christians and Muslims, and so to kind of make things easy, he actually turned Hagia Sophia from a mosque into a museum. So they took down a lot of the Muslim pieces of art and places of worship like the rugs and stuff. They actually removed them. And so for the first time in centuries, you could actually see the Christian art and designs and icons and all that. And they actually even removed some of the plaster from the wall so that you could actually see some of the icons. And a lot of these icons were like really, really, really amazing and famous. I mean, it's the epitome of Byzantine art, a lot of these. So yeah, that's pretty amazing. And naturally, it's one of the most popular places for tourists to go in the entire country. So, yeah, Hagia Sophia is definitely kicking some ass nowadays as a tourist attraction. Oddly enough, though, and kind of sad nowadays, things are getting kind of crazy again between the Christians and the Muslims. So There's actually a lot of Greek Orthodox guys who are on one side saying, hey, we want Hagia Sophia to be a church again. And then you're going to have the counter argument and reaction of the Muslims who are saying, you know what, screw you. I want this to be a mosque again. So, yeah, there's kind of a tug of war going on in Turkey right now with Hagia Sophia, what to do with it and stuff. And in fact, I think they've actually started having Muslim prayers in it again. So, yeah, I mean, it's more or less a mosque now, I guess. But I mean, whatever. Hagia Sophia's been there, done that. Yeah, it's just an amazing building and just fascinating. Whether it's a church, a mosque, or a museum, I can't wait to go and see it and just really take it all in. I mean, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful building, and the history that that building has witnessed. I mean, it was always there, man. Basically, the building was built during the rule of Justinian the Great. And in fact, when it was finally finished and the emperor got to walk around inside of it, he said, hey, Solomon, I've outdone thee. I mean, he was just stunned at how magnificent this building is. Just all the history and things this building got to witness. Like I said, I got to see Justinian kick ass. I got to see the couple of crusades go by. I got to see, basically the decline of the Byzantine Empire and then the rise of the Ottoman Empire. I mean, it's just really amazing. And I even got to see a little bit of World War One. So yeah, it's just amazing. And this model was really, really fun to put together. So yeah, naturally, if you have any kids who you want to get into architecture or history, definitely, have them do this. It's definitely fun. And yeah, I mean, if you want to do it, feel free to. It's pretty fun doing this, and you really learn a lot about the building, and hopefully it inspires you to learn more about the history and just how magnificent this time period was, the structure, the men who created it were. I mean, it's just all around just awesome. So yeah, definitely if you want to, check out Cubic Fun's 3D model of Hagia Sophia.